So the third episode of Star Wars Ahsoka has dropped, it being Part 3, Time to Fly. So this is, it felt shorter than Part 1 and Part 2 did, but this one did, I think, a lot more to advance the plot. Like I kind of adjusted my Part 1 review and Part 2 review, is that very much that was more about setting things up. Setting up the events, character motivations, catching up people who are not familiar with Star Wars rappers, which, by the way, they did a very good job in doing that, if I didn't say so already. So this is truly getting into a lot of the actual story of the episode. Ahsoka, Sabine, Huyang, they're going to the nav system, to the planet, the name I already forgot, to investigate. Hera is requesting New Republic support to, send a detachment there to also investigate, support Ahsoka and all that. Of course, politics keeps it off. She doesn't get permission from the Senate subcommittee to do so. Does sound like Mom Mothma is supportive of her, which makes sense. They fought in the rebellion together. But the other senators, who probably sat things out, are not so willing, including one senator, Kazuna. People who watch Star Wars Rebels might be familiar with that name. Now, I would have to say, is that fan service? Yes, it is. But it's good fan service because, okay, if you know that he's the father of the main character in Star Wars Resistance, great. If you don't, also great. Doesn't matter. The fact that it's a name we're familiar with means nothing in the story. It's just like, ooh, fun little detail to those of us who have seen other Star Wars media. If we haven't, it's just a new name. And that's what I've been seeing a lot of in Ahsoka. They've been using fan service in such a good way. Sometimes creators, I think, struggle a little bit with fan service, and I think largely Star Wars has done it pretty okay. Other people do disagree with me. However, I do feel like, especially in Ahsoka, and following in line from Star Wars Andor, these two shows are doing fan service in such a strong and good way, where it's subtle, it's integrated into the story. You don't even notice that you are getting fan service. Like this, it's often like Andor was often like the little things, like a KX security droid, very little. Was that fan service? Yes, but did it make sense? Yes, it did as well. And same thing here. Yeah, it makes sense. We knew from Star Wars Resistance that Kaz's father was a senator. So it makes sense that if we get media from before that time period, that potentially Kaz's father would appear as a senator. And thus he is. It makes perfect sense. And even if you didn't know that, it's a fun new senator. Which is so great. In fact, that is probably one of the highlights of this episode for me. That successful integration of fan service into the story, which I'm hoping to see more of. Those fun details, but also yet telling the story, using that stuff to help advance the story. And speaking of the story, we get some other good fan service as well, which might be playing a role later, because we actually get to see Hera's son Jason. We actually get to see it, and we find out that he does want to be a Jedi, which, of course, we know what happens later on in the timeline. But at the same time, it's like, could that be playing a role in the story somehow? Is it more than just a fun little Easter egg? Is it in fan service? Is it setting up something else as well? I think there's a good chance it might be, because this episode firmly establishes that Sabine does not have much, if any, natural talent in the Force, but she definitely does have determination. That is one thing they do make clear. It's not from a lack of effort on Sabine's part, but she's still learning. For her, like, they address that she picks up combat techniques, skills very easy, but the connecting with the Force itself that she doesn't pick up on. And perhaps maybe part of her story is like, there'll be a scene where Jason uses the Force and maybe Sabine feels a little jealous that it comes naturally to him. I wonder if that could be something going on in the later episode, which will contribute to both the stories, but especially Sabine's story, since she is the second main character after Ahsoka. I have a feeling we are going to get Ahsoka's character story, but I have a feeling like we're not quite there yet. I don't think we're going to really get her story to begin, like her character story, until she is confronted with the foreign Jedi that is in service to Morgan Elsbeth. I forget his name, but I have a feeling that's when her character story will truly begin. The seeds are being planted here and all that. Her getting maybe more back into the swing of things. but I have a feeling that confrontation is what's going to be the inciting moment in her character story. Sabine, we already know what's going. Her story is already kind of set up. All that was happened in the last episode. This episode continues, especially the story about her learning to be a Jedi when she, like Ring has made pretty clear, has no natural talent in the Force. Because just like Canon said in Star Wars Rebels, Ahsoka repeats the same sentiment in this episode, that the Force is in all living creatures. And so that's, I think, very good for Sabine to hear, because she knows, like, okay, it's in her, she just maybe needs to find a way to connect with it. And maybe something with the Purgo will be that way, because guess what? The Purgo make an appearance. So they make an appearance because they arrive in the NAB system and basically are almost immediately attacked by Morgan Usband's goons, for lack of a better term. So the foreign judge is Padawan, whose name I already forgot, and I literally just looked this up so I could remember. Give me a second. Okay, so I've looked up the name, so Hati, I think, is the name, but the Padawan of Skull, I hope I'm pronouncing the names right. I'm just going to say Foreign Jedi, and Foreign Jedi is Padawan, because that's probably the best way. But anyhow, she leads basically a squadron of starfighters along with the Inquisitor Marok, and to intercept Ahsoka, Sabine. Well, they do eventually escape thanks to the Purgos, because eventually, though Morgan Usband's ship, the Siron, which is a massive hyperdrive ring with triple laser embattments, do score pretty damaging hits. But anyhow, they do pursue, and Ahsoka and Sabine have to land on the planet. But on the way down there, they use a pack of Purgo as cover to get away and make a successful landing. Because then, of course, a bunch of hunters and all that are dispatched to find them in the forest. So that's probably going to be the next episode, because it wasn't just in this episode. But it makes sense with everything that's going on. But I think that's another example of fan service, and this one connected with Ezra because of the Purgos. And I think gives some more indication of what's going on with the Purgos, and also connects nicely with a line from Huyang where he talks about that the Jedi Archives had records of ancient hyperlanes between galaxies that followed basically the known migratory routes of Purgil, space whales in other words. But isn't that quite fascinating? All that connected together. Elements that might be considered fan service by some are actually being an integral part of the story. And I think that Ahsoka is showing that you can tell a Star Wars series that does have a lot of fan service, but one that isn't only fan service, that actually has story, has heart to it, that's actually telling a story about what is going on. I think that's most of the stuff I needed to be addressed. No chopper war crime scenes. Can't have that in every episode. But yeah, like I said, lots of great stuff in this episode, advancing the story very nicely. Connecting, also alluding to the fact that there's a lot of former Imperials in the New Republic because of the nature of just needing that bureaucracy, but also alluding to a lot of stuff we've seen in both Mandalorian by the New Republic, but also just politics in general in Star Wars, how so many politicians are not really in it for the benefit of everyone. Sure, they may claim that, but when faced with a potential existential threat like Grand Admiral Thrawn, they're like, well, you just want to go find Ezra Jennings and do this, so no. Well, if Ezra's alive, then maybe Thrawn is. And wouldn't it be better to be safe than sorry when it comes to Thrawn returning to the galaxy? That would be a good argument to make. But at the same time, because of her cloud of judgment, if you will, Hera probably couldn't make the argument because, yeah, deep down she does want to find Ezra, which is a very important part to her. Yeah, she knows the threat that Thrawn would pose to the New Republic, but if, she goes to find Thrawn, Thrawn's no longer in the picture, no longer anything to worry about, and finds Ezra, she'd be perfectly happy with that too. Thrawn not being there would be only a bonus. So yeah, that's just some interesting stuff to take a note of. But there, I think, is going to be covering most of the stuff I wanted to address. There's obviously some stuff I'm missing. In fact, I'm pretty sure there's something I'm missing. So we can begin a discussion in the comment section down below. So feel free to leave your thoughts on the episode there. Build off any of the points I made, critique them. I would love to hear your opinions. But that's all I have for you today. So thank you for watching, and may the Force be with you always. Thank you for watching this video. I do hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please be sure to give this video a like, as well as subscribe to my channel and ring that bell to stay up to date on my latest content. Also, be sure to check out the link tree in the description, as well as any other links I have down there.